Learning gymnastics is literally the most ridiculous thing ever. Right, Blitz? People be like, stay tight, but don't be tense. Make sure you're working and staying active, but don't forget to relax. Stay long. What does that even mean? Have you ever thought about pointing your toes? Keeping your feet together? Make your butt look so unattractive by squeezing it. The Mike Wazowski butt. You look like you're not breathing. Are you breathing? Wait, think about 5,000 other things, but don't forget to breathe. That's exactly what we're gonna be talking about today. We're gonna be talking about breathing during gymnastics, which gets very tricky. But when you can understand how breathing works into that confusing factor of be tight but not tense and finding your rhythm through movements, it makes a big difference. So we're gonna look at a few movements up on the pull-up bar, and then we'll get out here and do some upside downness and handstand walking. One of the trickiest factors of gymnastics is how to be tight but not be tense. And we've kind of broken that down in earlier videos. If you watch some gymnastics videos up on the bar, we talk about being long and stretching long and how I can engage and squeeze my muscles without being so tense or short. And sometimes some of the hardest people to coach are my really strong, powerful athletes because they do have a lot of strength and power. I really just love sports and athletics because when you do skills right, you know when you did them right. When you do skills with bad technique, usually you're like, that didn't feel good. Why did that hurt me? Why did the barbell hit me? Why did that feel really rough? So hopefully this video helps you guys get on track with that really overall confusing side of gymnastics of how to be long, pretty, and relaxed, and this will help your efficiency. So let's get into it. If you guys have attended any of my other videos where we're hanging from the pull-up bar and doing any skills up here, you might have heard me say, stay long. Long when we're moving through kipping swings, because this is a way I can engage my muscles without being so tight and rigid and use momentum to my advantage. Now, if you're truly showing me your longest body ever, your feet are together and your toes are pointed. Beautiful. The rules on the pull-up bar are pretty simple. When your chest is open and big, that's where you're gonna let out your air. And just like any other weightlifting movement that you do, when you are trying to brace or lift something, be in a pull-up where you're lifting your body weight, or in a toes to bar where you're lifting your legs, that's where you're gonna tighten everything up, flex your muscles, and essentially I would never say hold your breath, but have that air trapped in so you feel tight and light in one big piece. So let's just start with a kipping swing, and then I'll probably build it into some hanging knee raises so you guys can see a skill progression right there. So right here, I'm hanging from the bar. When I'm in the arch position, that's when I can let out my air. Let's look at some toes to bar. You know, it was funny the other day, I was working out. It was in between a little bit of class time when our music was down a little bit, and people were coming up to me and they're like, you were breathing so hard. I was like, I think I'm breathing like that all the time, even though I was really dying. You guys could just hear it a lot better. And I was doing gymnastics complexes on the bar, and I think people could hear where I was really letting air out, taking it back in. So that was a funny comment that I got the other day. When your chest is big and open in that arch, that's where you wanna let out the air, and then as you're coming back into that hollow, that's where you're gonna take in that air. Every movement has a breath. Same thing for kipping pull-ups. Watch these. Listen to these. So when I go to brace my abs to do the actual pull-ups so I stay tight and light, I'm kind of holding my breath right there, but then I gotta make sure when I'm coming back down to that arch, I'm letting out that air. Same thing with butterfly pull-ups. It's pretty cool because when you have those really strong and powerful athletes that are trying to develop their gymnastics, and maybe you see them do toes to bar or something like that's very rigid where they don't have that big of a kipping swing, you can almost see the tension in their face and through their body about I'm just holding my breath right here. Usually comes from they're just used to muscling everything because they're big and strong. Reminding them to breathe sometimes lets them open up and find that long tension. The biggest kind of stepping stone I've seen with a lot of our athletes over here is when they finally figure out toes to bar and learning to be long, because we've done toes to bar videos before, and that's a great skill for learning how to stay long in the backswing and then developing that long tension to be able to sweep through and get those toes through in the front. When athletes can start really finding that long tension, figuring out where to breathe and getting into that really solid toes to bar rhythm, that gymnastics light bulb, bing, usually clicks for them. And then they start feeling better in their pull-ups and their higher skill gymnastics. All the skills have a rhythm. It's gonna feel really nice when you hit good solid reps. And next we go the handstand walks. Let's go. Now, handstand walks are very tricky on the other hand. And quite frankly, when people are learning to handstand walk, I'm not too mad about them holding their breath when they're upside down. Now, that's not gonna help for really long distance handstand walking. The difference is when you're upside down and why it's so difficult to breathe is you are on tension the whole time. You're trying to balance upside down continuously, which means you have to stay tight continuously. The best way I can describe how to breathe during handstand walks, if you're holding a barbell, say like a back squat for weightlifting, and you're not even moving it just yet, but you have heavy weight loaded onto your back, and you're just standing there, you can brace for a second, but eventually you're gonna have to breathe. And when you breathe, you don't necessarily let out the biggest breath of air and deflate. But you do learn how to almost sip the air a little bit, where you're still braced and got most of your air in here, but you are making sure you're getting a little bit of oxygen. I think that's the best way I can kind of like describe learning to breathe in handstand walks, because you want to be braced, but eventually you're gonna have to breathe, but you can't deflate and let all your muscles relax. So sipping that air a little bit, and honestly, some of the worst noises ever when I'm doing workouts might come from handstand walking. So when I start getting into my handstand walking, I'm like, hey, don't forget to breathe, Becca. I'm almost sipping the air a little bit. You'll hear some good breaths. Best ways to practice that breathing and bracing for getting ready for the upside down world is just get into a plank hold. Now, when you're plank holding right here, you're tight, bracing at your belly, squeezing your bottom, squeezing all these muscles in order to hold this good plank position. And then I can do my breathing right here, but I can also feel my abs don't disengage, they stay super tight, and eventually you're gonna be able to get better at that during your handstand. When you're first learning your handstand walks, you're definitely gonna have a billion other things in your head. So sometimes holding your breath and making sure all of this stays super tight is fine in the beginning, but as you start walking further and further distances, you're gonna realize, yeah, I probably can't hold my breath that long. It's gonna be nice for me to figure out some breathing. So remember, sip that air a little bit as you get stronger and more comfortable with your upside down world. Little coaching, kind of programming tip or stepping stone for athletes that may be getting past the beginning stages of learning their skills and be like, hey, I have some handstand walks on the ground. Now I just want to get better at putting them into workouts. Sometimes I like to set up a little EMOM that might have a bike or running or some sort of cardio piece before they kick upside down or do the gymnastics movement. So they're already kind of out of breath, and it's going to be very, very hard for them to hold their breath, which is going to force them to learn how to breathe. We'll go back and forth between maybe like a bike and a handstand walk. That's a good next stepping stone for athletes that are really getting comfortable and developing some solid technique on their skills. That would be the next step of, let's put this in a workout. Mechanics, consistency, intensity, always in that order. Okay, I think that's what I got. Remember, every movement that you do has a rhythm to it, and you're supposed to be breathing through those movements. So if you find you're holding your breath, challenge yourself a little bit with the rules of, when I'm on tension, my air is gonna be tucked in tight to my body, and when I'm coming off tension, that's when I can let out that air a little bit and then find that rhythm of breathing. Super fun, takes your fitness to the next level because you're gonna get more efficient, And who doesn't want that? Who knew remembering how to breathe could be so difficult? I hope this helps you guys. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.